053 The Beat, Ferrari Simmons. I got a special guest in the building. Caskey, how's it going, sir?
Yes, sir. Glad to be here, man.
Hey, man,
Thanks
listen.
for having me.
You don't even know this, but I'm from Florida.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Orlando.
Dope.
So I've heard about you for a very long time. I know who you are.
Dope.
Definitely a fan of the music.
I appreciate that.
So I remember when they hit me, it was like, yeah, Caskey. I was like, what? Hell yeah. That was a
Yeah,
no-brainer,
man.
for real,
Glad
for
to
real.
be here.
Just
Yeah,
being
you never
honest.
know stepping into this. Is it going to be somebody that's heard of me, or is it just going to be like, had to Google you real quick?
Yeah. So for my audience, I do want to
Yeah,
let's
no,
start it all the way over.
Yeah.
So Caskey's from Orlando, Florida.
Yes, sir.
And you correct me. I know you had a deal as a teenager, 17, 16.
Yeah, I was about 19.
19,
when I signed
okay.
at Cash Money.
Cash
yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
And I remember this. So let's start there. How long have you been doing music?
So I started doing music when I was like 15. Not really serious, just making music at school, freestyling, stuff like that. But I started getting serious with it like my last year of high school. And yeah, a year and a half after that, got a deal from Cash Money. It was kind of just random.
Like, wait.
Yeah.
I mean, Orlando, Florida, and
Yeah.
especially at a time when it was very hard to get out of
Yeah.
the state of Florida. You
Yeah.
had Miami,
Yeah.
a little bit of Tampa.
Yeah.
Not really anything else.
That was it.
So you had T-Pain in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Well, you were in Orlando, and it wasn't too many artists from Orlando that had a major deal like you had with Cash Money. How did that happen?
It was honestly just random. Like it wasn't.
Dog, how do you explain this?
It wasn't a natural like progression to
Okay.
me of like I did all these things and I had a single. It was
And you didn't
just
have
a
the
chance
tattoos at the
encounter.
time. You didn't have all
Yeah,
this.
I had my arms done, but
Okay.
I was waiting to blast my neck and face and hands so I knew I could make some money.
Okay,
But,
okay.
Nah, it wasn't like a natural progression of like my hustle at the time. It was just a chance encounter. Like Birdman was getting played another artist's music, and I happened to be featured on one of these records, and I stood out to him, and he was like, "Who's that kid?" So when I signed and I got my situation with Cash Money, I didn't have a lot of music out. I wasn't a big artist. It wasn't like they were signing to like capitalize on a buzz I'd already made. It was more just like Bird saw a vision in me, saw that, he believed that I could do this like on a bigger scale and just, wanted to see me win. So I had a unique situation with them. I'm super grateful for it,
Okay. Now, fast forward now,
Mhm.
when the deal is complete
Mhm.
or you're no longer with Cash Money,
Yeah.
what does Caskey do then?
Well, I kind of just had I just started really like repping my independent thing. It wasn't like we had any sort of bad falling out. I just think they signed me super early in my career. I had a lot of like figuring myself out to do. And so there, one thing I tell artists all the time is I'm like, yeah, the biggest artist in the world could co-sign you and stuff, but what determines if you're really going to make it as an artist all has to do with you, your internal dialogue, your work ethic.
Are you fans?
And so, yeah, I had great cosigns and stuff, but I had a lot of like internal issues going on at that age. And I just wasn't like happy with myself, motivated. I just was self-destructive at that time. So there was only so much they could have done for me. And so just at some point, I just parted ways to like rep Black Sheep and the stuff that I was building on my own, because there came a point in the relationship with them where I just felt like a lot of the stuff that was getting credited to them was really my own doing. And there were a lot of blessings and alley-oops they threw me early on, but again, you have to like learn to stand on your own as an artist. And I just felt like there was they weren't 100% sure what to do with me. I wasn't 100% sure how to utilize them. And so I just, at some point decided to go my separate ways and just start repping my own stuff.
I'm glad you said that because you actually answered a lot of questions I was going to ask. So, Black Sheep, this is something that that's yours.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like,
and why Black Sheep?
Yeah, it just started out as a name for an album, and I was trying to think of something that encompassed me and that would be bigger than just like a single album name, and just kind of represented what I was going for as an artist. And so I've always felt like the Black Sheep growing up, and it's funny because the older I get, the more that statement kind of rings true. Like I felt like the Black Sheep on Cash Money, I felt like the Black Sheep coming out of Orlando and Florida, and I don't know, I've just always stayed in my lane, and I think that's like what it is that I've come to rep, and that's what it represents for me is just listening to your own internal voice and not really worrying too much about what's working or what's popular or what's common, and just going against the grain. Every step that I've done something, it was the opposite of what most people told me to do.
I always wanted to ask you too. I was like, man, if I ever meet him, I want to ask him this question. Your name? Where's your name come from?
It's my last name. So
really?
yeah, my name's Brandon Caskey, and
Okay.
I always went by Caskey, like, cause when you're a kid and you
So
play
that
sports,
was easy.
yeah, you play
It's your last
sports.
name, so everybody just
Yeah,
call
and
you by your last
I
name.
honestly sucked at coming up with rap names. Like I never had like a natural knack for that. I
Okay.
tried coming up with names when I was younger. I was so bad at it, and everybody already called me Caskey. Like that's what I've been by. So it was just a natural. It feels like my name because that's what everybody but my mom calls me Caskey.
Now these tattoos, man. I just remember. I remember you was tatted.
Yeah.
But then I started seeing these right here. So
crazy.
What's going on?
I got like a skull that's eating my head. Basically, it's like a bottom jaw of a skull. I just love it. Like I had this vision for a long time. You ever seen the movie Apocalypto?
Yeah.
It's kind of a not a lot of people have seen it, but it's a Mel Gibson movie that he's not in it. He directed it, but it was hard to find for a while. It got taken off for some reason. But there's a dude in Apocalypto that has this like animal jaw hanging from his, and I just seen that. And you've seen lots of like cultures that use like the animal heads over people's heads, and so I just always had this idea of this like thing consuming me, and for me it's just about like this warrior spirit kind of consuming you and stepping into a new identity. And I had the idea for a really long time. You know, it's funny because every once in a while I like make fun of like rappers that just get ridiculous face tats for attention. I'm probably the worst poster child for that because some people look at me and are like, this is insane. But I was always like really passionate about getting covered up. Like, dude, I got the inside of my ears done, the back of my head.
That shit look like it hurts.
It was awful. But like I always was committed to going this big. And so I'm had
scared
this
about the neck.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. The neck was bad. The ears was the worst thing I've ever experienced.
Bro, that's fire. You have like an ear sleeve.
Yeah, it was.
And then like this whole part is.
Can I cuss on here?
Yeah.
It was fucked. It was fucked up. Like I did the ears at my house. My older brother does my shit, and it took like 3 or 4 hours each ear because he had to do it so slowly, and it was fucked up. But I never got to do it again. So
facts. Okay, now you just got off tour with
Yellow Wolf.
Yellow Wolf.
Yes, sir.
How was that? How'd you meet?
Incredible.
You just don't meet Yellow Wolf. How do you?
Yeah, nah, he's hard to get around. Yeah, he well, actually, Jelly Roll.
For Jelly Roll.
Yeah, Jelly Roll has been a longtime friend of mine. Like
really?
he was the first artist that I ever met. Like when I was in the industry, or not in the industry, but before I was in the industry, he was the first artist I ever met, and we just maintained a friendship throughout the years. He's introduced me to a lot of people, but I was living in LA at the time, and Jelly Roll was opening for Wolf. And he hit me up and he was like, I feel like you and Wolf will get along. Like, I just got a feeling y'all would vibe. Yeah. And he's like, come to the show. And so I met Wolf there. And it kind of started out slowly. Like he hopped on a feature for me. I did one for his album. And then he just kept an eye on me. And eventually, like, he saw the stuff that I was dropping and my vision for like who I was as an artist, and did his research on who I was, and he was like, yeah, you're the real deal. And we just honestly we linked up, and that's like literally like my brother now. He's like one of the few rappers I would consider like real family, you know.
No, that's dope. Now I dealt with a lot of depression on my individual journey.
Yeah.
And I hate doing interviews talking about good shit all the time.
Yeah, 100%. So, it's service-led.
I always like to bring up times of moments of conflict or moments that we had to overcome.
Yeah, it's valuable.
Some type of, opposition, depression, whatever.
Yeah.
Has that ever been a moment where you was like, because you said it earlier, you had to find yourself?
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, a little background
what
for
did that
people
look
that
like?
don't know. Like, I lost my dad to suicide when I was 16.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, my dad killed himself at my house when I was 16 on 4/20. So I had like left the house early to go smoke. Didn't end up smoking for whatever reason. Plans fell through, and I got picked up by police at my school, like second period, and went to my mom. My mom's a teacher at an elementary school, so I went to that school, and I just knew something fucked up had happened. And so yeah, I was 16. That happened to me. I'd always kind of grown up around drugs. Like my dad had a drug problem. I had some family members with struggle with addiction. So I was always growing up around some dark shit, and I didn't really understand it a lot as a kid, and I didn't have a full grasp of what my dad was going through. He had lost his fingers in a construction accident when I was in 3rd grade. And so he had developed an opioid addiction from there, and like, was addicted to Oxycontin. And so by the time I was a teenager, I was starting to grasp it a little bit, and then just really spiraled out of control for like 6 months, and he ended up doing that. So yeah, I've definitely had to overcome a good amount of stuff. And for me, as a kid and being a boy, like, you look at your dad as like this, if your dad's in your life, you look at him as like the epitome of like what a man's supposed to be, and strength. And my dad was a tough dude. He was like 350 pounds, biker. Like, he was a scary dude. And so him doing that just like altered my whole view of reality at the time. It was like understanding that people have really deep pain and that they don't always share it, because he never talked to me about that stuff. And it just opened up me to this whole deeper layer of life. And so I was starting to make music prior to that, but I ended up scratching everything, and I just turned into a totally different artist overnight. And because I just had this real different view of what life was like. And it's weird to say that those things like inspired or influenced your trajectory, but like looking back now, I wouldn't have been at all the same artist. And so I don't think that's the reason for those things, but you create meaning out of tragedy, and that was it for me.
Listen, I appreciate you sharing that, because somebody needed to hear it.
Yeah,
I don't care if it's just one person that needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Here you are right now,
Yeah, and like one thing I will say about the suicide stuff, because I struggled with addiction and depression and suicidal thoughts a lot after losing him for a long time. And like the number one thing for me was that I had to get sober. Like, even when I was just using and drinking recreationally, at some point it became more of a habit. And getting sober for me was like a big turning point in my healing journey, because for a long time I just suppressed what I was going through. And it's really hard to get an honest look at yourself and what your strengths and weaknesses are and what you're struggling with if you're always in an altered state. And so getting sober, I'm coming on 4 years. I just passed 4 years. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely,
and
man.
so and that was a big part of my healing journey. And just like I had to learn to re-go through those things, because like when you lose somebody you love like that, it never just goes away. You don't really heal from it.
There.
You live with it.
And
so I had to learn to like go through those memories and all these things. And it was like, I was like 9 or so years after my dad had died that I got sober, and I was just now learning to deal with those things. And so I had to re-experience it all over again. But I think when you take painful things and then you learn how to build yourself up with something positive through it, like I stopped doing drugs, I got in the gym, I started making art more, I started talking to people that I cared about more, and I channeled all the painful stuff into things that made me grow instead of things that were destroying me. And then that's when like I feel like our pain is our gift in life, because all the most transformative stuff we've been through, it's always rooted in pain. And there's no great story of anybody that was just like, and it was all good and then it got better. It's like, it's all rooted in tragedy. That's every great story. So, I think our pain is our gift if we learn how to use it correctly.
Man, thank you for saying that. Now, did your dad's love for motorcycles transfer to you?
Oh, dude, I always wanted to be like him. Like, and my dad was counterculture, had his fair share of drug dealings and shootouts and stuff like that. He was wild, Yeah. I got a news article of from when I don't even think I was born yet, but these 3 guys that were on PCP tried to break into my house that my mom was at, and my dad came from the bar he worked at and shot all these dudes. So it's like he was wild and but also a really just good dude and funny as hell. But he rode motorcycles and had tattoos, and I just always wanted to be like that, So we never failed to emulate our parents in some way.
Man, I appreciate you sharing all this stuff. Now, so let's get back to the music, man. Black Sheep, are you signed?
I'm not signed, no.
Are you independent?
I distribute through 1RPM, but,
okay.
As far as anything else, yeah, I'm independent.
And what do we have coming out right now? What's out currently?
So I just dropped Cadillac Music's album I've been working on all year, produced by my brother Anonymous. We shot a music video on a fucking iPhone that's got 1 million views.
Listen, bro, my iPhone, I got the new iPhone 15. We put that bad boy. What is it, 8K now or something like that?
There's no excuse to not go
Facts.
Figure it out. So yeah, we got a bunch of videos off of that. I'm still shooting videos off of that. I'm about to drop for the second time in my career. I'm about to drop $100 mixtape. to 1,000 fans.
Okay.
And that was something I did 2 years ago, inspired by, obviously, Nipsey Hussle. Shout out him. And
his was 1,000, right?
I think he did both. I think he did $100 mixtape, and then I could be
1,000.
wrong, though. My memory's shot. But, yeah, so this is the second time doing that. I'm about to drop that. It's 30 songs, only exclusive to 1,000 people. And then other than that, it's just the continuous cycle of albums. Like, I'm an artist that's dropped so many albums since I started because I just am overflowing with it. Like, you know, you have some, I sometimes look at artists that have smaller bodies of work that are really known, and I'm like, man, that must be cool to only have like 3 albums out and be really known. But then also, like, I grew up in the Lil Wayne era, and Gucci and Wayne, and dude, it's just like, I think both paths can just lead to success. Ultimately, it's about just music finding people it resonates with, and so I'm one of those people that's just like overflowing with ideas, you know. So,
all right. Well, look, I want you to look at that camera. I want you to say your name and give these folks some motivational inspiration. Talk to your fans.
Yes, sir. All right. My name is Caskey. I am the Black Sheep, and I just want to say that, you know, in this life, you could do whatever the hell that you want to do. And that if you take your time to not focus on the 1 million followers or the 1 million views or the timeline, if you just commit your life to things that you're passionate about and you listen to your own inner guiding voice, and you don't listen to what people tell you is the smartest way to do it or none of that, you just listen to the authentic voice inside of you that's saying, this is what's unique about you, this is the way I think you should do it. If you do that, you will find success and happiness in life. And any time in my life that I have tried to listen to others' opinions over my own calling voice, I've failed. And any time that I've done exactly what I thought I should do, even when it was counterintuitive, I've just had special things happen. So open yourself up to those like special possibilities, and, you know, don't worry about the outer accolades. Accomplishments are transient, and, you know, what you do and what you're proud of, that lasts.
Damn, bro. Appreciate it.
I'm going to write a book one day.
Finally got my Caskey interview. Yes, sir. 105.3 The Beat, ATL. You know the vibes.
Thank you for
Steve.
having me, dog.